I want everybody to keep the family of B.T. Johnson, the former Motor Schools maintenance supervisor, passed away last Saturday. Services were held yesterday in Plain Dealing. His wife, Carol Jean, is a retired principal at Digital. Please keep that family in your prayers. Our own Mary Denman, our retirement specialist, continues to battle cancer. Emily Sinagra, a student at Benton, one of our Benton schools, as at St. Jude, currently undergoing treatment for cancer. And then Kathy Ivy, one of our teachers at Apollo, continues to struggle with her cancer treatments, and we're asking for prayers for that family, for relief of her pain and nausea, and to lift that family up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bass, will you lead us in prayer, and Ms. Rhodes, will you lead us in prayer?
Please bow together. Father God, thank you so much, Lord. Thank you for all our many blessings, Lord. Thank you for this board. Thank you for the teachers and employees, Lord. Thank you for this school system. Lord, we just want to ask that you look over Mr. Johnson's family as they go through his death, Lord. We just ask that you bring them comfort. We want to pray for Mary Denman, Emily Sinagra, and Kathy Ivy and their families, Lord, as they are battling cancer, Lord. We just ask that you bring them comfort. Lord, we ask that you bring them peace, and we ask that you give the doctors the wisdom they need to heal them, Lord. We want to pray for all those that have or have been affected by COVID, Lord. We just ask that you continue to look over them, Lord. We just know that you have everything in your hands, Lord. We just have such faith and trust in you. Lord, we ask that you look over this meeting. Lord, we ask that you will be done here tonight. We ask all these things in your dear and precious name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda for the regular session of the board for February 25th, 2021.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Bass, second by Mr. Bothouse. Please vote. Unanimous. 2.01, recognition, Bossier Parish Schools Good News, presented by Sonia Mills, Public Relations Liaison.
Good evening, President Smith, our board members, Mr. Downey, and to everybody here this evening. We all know the value of community partnerships, and this past week being the perfect example. Bossier Schools put out a plea for help during the following the winter storm and all of the water woes that we had. We needed some help to be able to provide our staff and our students with safe drinking water so we could reopen our schools. And the Bossier Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, FEMA, the Louisiana National Guard, the City of Bossier, Bossier Parish Police Jury, they all quickly mobilized within just 24 hours' time to locate and transport more than 9,000 cases of bottled water to be able to open our doors. That equals 250,000 bottles of water. Let me tell you, that's a lot of water that fills the Bossier Civic Center. It was a massive effort, and we'd be remiss if we also did not give a shout out to our maintenance department led by Mr. Stacy Roche, our director of security, Captain Johnson, and all of our custodial and maintenance crews for helping us disperse all of that water in one day's time. That's quite an effort to 34 schools and also centers. So a big thanks to all of them. You know, it just goes to remind us of something that Helen Keller once said, "Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much." And tonight we are celebrating more good news with two other key community partners, Barksdale Air Force Base and Cyber.org. You know, our strong partnership with Barksdale has enabled us to do many things to support thousands of military-connected students over the years, including integrating military family life consultants and also implementing student-to-student programs in several schools to transition and support transition and separation from parents during deployment. Georgette Price is Bossier School's Military Services Manager. She is joining us tonight with some exciting news, so I'm going to ask her to come to the podium. Ms. Price.
We have quite a height difference between us. Thank you, Ms. Bales, President Smith, board members, and Superintendent Downey. Tonight, I'm very excited to announce our very own Superintendent Mitch Downey has been named an honorary commander for the 2nd Mission Support Group at Barksdale Air Force Base. Just so you know a little bit about this program, the goal of the Honorary Commander Program is to build and maintain a strong and lasting bond between Barksdale Air Force Base and surrounding communities, while exposing community leaders to the mission of the 2nd Bomb Wing and the important role of today's military. The Honorary Commanders Program serves as an opportunity to educate key community leaders about the innovative missions of Barksdale Air Force Base, foster a supportive relationship with the community, increase military involvement in civic endeavors and organizations, and demonstrate connection the community and the base share. As a military-connected child himself and a lifelong educator, Mr. Downey has impacted the lives of many of the military children from Barksdale Air Force Base. And I know that on a personal level because I am married to one of his former military-connected students who also went on to serve our nation. And he talks about wrestling practice often still, 20-something years later. As a principal and assistant superintendent and now superintendent, Mr. Downey has valued and promoted a strong working relationship with Barksdale Air Force Base and all of the district's initiatives to support military students and families. As an honorary commander, Mr. Downey will be able to increase his understanding of the mission of Barksdale Air Force Base and the concerns of its members and families in order to better care for our military-connected students in Bossier schools. So please help me once again congratulate Superintendent Mitch Downey as he joins me at the podium. I'd also like to welcome and ask to come to the podium Colonel Randy White-Cotton, the commander of the 2nd Mission Support Group, his command chief, Chief Master Sergeant Jamie Prince, and the school liaison officer, Jacqueline Robertson.
Well, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I was greeted nicely at the door and reminded that I was going to have a few minutes for remarks. So I only have about 60 minutes worth of prepared remarks. Not to give him a mic. The chief knows that I can tend to be verbose. But all kidding aside, it's a real pleasure to be here. And it's a pleasure to be part of the larger Barksdale, Bossier City, Shreveport community. On behalf of Colonel Demetriushin, who is our wing commander, our installation commander, it's an absolute honor to be part of the larger community and the partnership. To demonstrate to that partnership, Superintendent Downey came to Barksdale this afternoon. We had lunch together, talked about what the Mission Support Group does. He knew most of it just because he grew up in a military family himself. You know, having been in the Air Force for 26 years now, and having a great partner in J.P. Prince, who I think only has about 4 years. He's a lot younger than I am.
I don't know about that.
With the multitude of experience or years that we've had, our children, his children, and my two kids have also been through, like Mitch had been through, a number of moves during our careers, and our children oftentimes, you know, the spouse and the military members, they choose to be in the military. The children are born into it. They don't necessarily get to choose. I have 11 schools that I'll have in my high school career, so, or elementary formative years. So having a community like we have in Boulder City that is so supportive of our military families really means a lot. And having a partnership that we'll continue to have with Superintendent Downey and the entire community district really means a lot to our Scale Air Force Base. So I'll cut myself off at this point. Chief Superintendent,
I can't add anything to that.
we really appreciate everything you're doing, partnering with us, and thank you for having us out here.
Thank you. Just quickly, I've always been impressed with the military, and we're a military community, as we all know, and Barksdale's been awesome for us at the school system. I was referred to as a military brat when I was in school, but they've refined that term now, so I think they've softened it a little bit. But anyway, we do understand the difficulties the children especially go through in the move, and then other members of the family. I shared with Colonel today that we moved 9 times when I was in school, and so having to adjust and make those transitions work smoothly is very difficult. We want to do everything in Bossier schools to make sure we help with that and appreciate their service. So thank you very much.
JR is our school liaison officer, and we have a great relationship between the school board and the superintendent and JR. So JR, I'm remiss not.
I think they want a picture, sir.
As Ms. Bales commented earlier, another very important partnership that we have, or we're very lucky to have at Bossier Schools, is our relationship with cyber.org. So I'm really happy to announce tonight that due in part to our military-connected student numbers and our strong partnership with cyber.org, which is the academic initiative of the Cyber Innovation Center, it used to be called NYSERC, for those of you in the know. The school zone for the East Reservation of Barksdale Air Force Base, Rhodes, Platte, Princeton, Houghton Middle, and Houghton High have received funding for increased STEM and cyber classes this semester through a Department of Defense consortium grant. The Cyber Innovation Center is another one of Bossier School's key community partners, and tonight I have the pleasure to introduce Kevin Knowlton, who is the Director of Academic Outreach at cyber.org, to provide more information on what we can expect in our Houghton schools through this project. Kevin.
Thank you, Ms. Price, Superintendent Downey, the board. It's always good to see you all. Bossier Parish friends, there's so much to brag about, and like the Colonel, I really could be here for 60 minutes talking about the goodness that comes out of the partnership between the Cyber Innovation Center and Bossier Parish Schools. But one thing that I want to highlight today is an effort that we wrote a grant for with the Defense STEM Education Consortium, DSEC, Department of Defense. And this grant was focused on providing a smooth transition for military families going from base to base. Superintendent Downey mentioned 9 times. And that's 9 different education systems. That's 9 different base community centers. That's 9 different overall communities that these students have to go from and to, often 2 to 3 years at a time. What we wanted to do was invest dollars in school systems and schools who are educating our military students. And so this project is to introduce cyber skills. A lot of transition takes place between those 2 bases. We're replicating what we stood up at Houghton. We're doing that in the Minot schools. We're working incredibly well with the Minot community centers to impact those students who are the beneficiaries of the resources in the community in which they get transferred. So a lot of great things happening with this DSEC grant. We additionally got an additional $100,000, so it was a $250,000 grant that we split between the two bases. We have another $300,000 coming in next year. And Air Force Global Strike Command is looking at this model for all of their bases. Again, another shining star for Bossier Parish to be the pioneer in cyber education, a pioneer in STEM education, and it's a model that everybody's looking towards all around the country. So congrats, Bossier Parish. Thank you, Superintendent, for being such an incredible partner. Georgette, a great liaison for all the military families here in our community. So let's keep up the great work, and I think there's more good news coming that Sonia will talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Knowlton. Exciting news. And, our district's emphasis on STEM is the perfect transition for our next group of honorees here tonight. Last month, Cyber.org partnered with the National Governors Association for a virtual cyber competition that drew more than 1,400 students from 43 states to compete. Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards had the honor of announcing the high school winners. So at this time, I would like to direct your attention to the screen.
1,425 students from 43 states compete this year. In 5th place, Sean Bell from Bossier Parish School for Technology and Innovative Learning in Bossier City, Louisiana. They will receive a $500 technology award. In 4th place, Rami Kasabali from Bossier Parish School for Technology and Innovative Learning. The school will receive a $750 technology award. In 3rd place, Liam Denahan from Airline High School, also in Bossier City. Congratulations on receiving a $1,000 technology award. And in 2nd place, Carter Costick from Red Bank Regional High School in Little Silver, New Jersey. Red Bank will receive a $1,250 technology award. And finally, in 1st place, Ethan Hubb from Franklin High School in Elk Grove, California. Franklin will receive a $1,500 technology award. So congratulations to these teams. Stay interested in cybersecurity and please consider joining this important profession. Enjoy today's conference.
That's right, 3 Bossier Parish High School students placed in the top 5 across the nation among more than 1,400 competitors. Will Liam Denahan, Raimi Kasabali, and Sean Bell please come forward? So Liam here, raise your hand, Liam, if you will. He attends Airline and also Bossier Parish School for Technology and Innovative Learning. He placed 3rd. Raimi Kasabali in the middle here. He attends Airline High School and placed 4th. And Sean Bell there also attends Airline and Bib Still, and he placed 5th. And they are each going to receive a cyberbot, which Kevin Knowlton could explain a little bit more about that. You could too, but it's software.
Hardware.
Google it when you get home. And on behalf of Bossier Schools and our sponsor, Caldwell Banker Gosley, we want to award each of you with these Award of Excellence medallions for 2020-2021 because I can't think of a better example of excellence than representing Bossier Schools top 5 in the nation. That is impressive, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give them a big round. Sean Bell because I found out that he is on the wrestling team for Airline. The rest of the team is already headed down south to the state tournament. He felt very strongly about being here tonight for this recognition, so he and his dad are heading down to Baton Rouge right as soon as we let him go after this. So good luck at state, by the way, and congratulations to them. Also, I want to make sure that their teachers receive the accolades. Airline robotics teacher Billy Neal and bib still instructors Lee Doty and Marie Camback, they are going to be awarded technology grants funded by the U.S. Department of Labor, ranging from $500 to $1,000. So if they are in attendance, if they would stand, I would like for them to take a bow too, please. Congratulations to all of you for excellence and putting Bossier Schools on the map once again when it comes to cybersecurity and all things STEM. Congratulations and good luck. And there is more good news this evening. Will George Allen, Evan Bonar, and Shane Harding please come to the podium? It's all guys tonight. It's the guy show tonight. Our board members will remember these three high school seniors. They were introduced to you before when they were named National Merit semifinalists. Well, we are elated to announce that they recently received word that each of them has advanced as National Merit Scholar finalists. Evan and Shane here, Evan here. They both attend Benton High School. George here attends Houghton High School. And now that they are finalists, they are in contention to receive a college or corporate-sponsored scholarship or the prestigious National Merit Scholarship, as well as the Merit Scholar title. And this distinction as finalists has just opened many doors for these three young men to attend colleges that perhaps were not previously within their grasp financially. So this is the exciting time to be able to rush home after school and check the mailbox. Because scholarship awards will begin going out soon in March. So we are very eager to find out where the three of them are going to be going to college in a matter of just a few months. But we are so proud of you guys, and congratulations. Keep us in touch where we're going next. And last but certainly not least, he's been called the Wildcat King. He's been spotted sporting a pink bunny suit and going around town making deliveries as Maxwell Cottontail. And he has gained a legion of fans and the admiration of the faculty and staff at Waller Elementary. Mitch Maxwell is a 24-year educator who describes himself as someone who is drawn to schools and programs that are described in some way as underdogs. So when the opportunity presented itself to become principal at Waller Elementary and change the school's culture, he went for it, and he has never looked back once. Mr. Maxwell's first order of business was filling 16 open positions at the school and building what he calls his dream team. He also empowered his faculty. Kelly Haynes wrote, "We all have potential in us, but a true leader brings it out. Mitch Maxwell is a leader. He makes us want to be better teachers and humans, and he truly leads by example. He took a staff that was weary and overwhelmed, and he brought us hope. Hope that we can be what our students need." And speaking of leading by example, Mr. Maxwell has been spotted on many occasions rolling up his sleeves to clean and sanitize classroom wings and help custodians dig ditches and cut the grass. He will not ask someone to do something that he is not willing to do himself. Julie Frederick says a day has not gone by that she has not seen Mr. Maxwell show servant leadership in action. And the testimonials from Waller's faculty and staff do go on, but one that I want to leave you with comes from Patricia Shire. She said, "He believed in us, so we believed in ourselves again. He told us we would rise up and achieve great things, and Waller has risen up and achieved great things. Mr. Maxwell took a school that people were ready to give up on, and he has turned it into a place of pride where success shines every day." It is my privilege to recognize our Gold Star recipient for the month of February, Mr. Mitch Maxwell. Dahl from Bossier Federal Credit Union, our sponsor to the Gold Star program. So please come forward. They have a presentation for you.
Another big height difference. Like Sonia said, we received so many nominations talking about Mr. Maxwell's leadership. A lot of them talking about how he treats Waller Elementary like it's his home, and he treats the staff and his students like they're his family, and we couldn't ask for anything more in an administrator. And so on behalf of Bossier Federal, thank you for being an example, and congratulations on being the February 2021 Gold Star Award recipient.
And to add to that title, Wildcat King, loving that one, you can also add honoree and recipient of the Award of Excellence, too. Congratulations.
Bring it back up again. So I don't need to tell her she healed for this. When I found out I got this award, it's such an honor and a privilege. And thank you all for the nominations. You guys are the real gold stars there at the top. You make every day awesome there. It's like a dream come true. Board, thank you all for the recognition tonight. Bossier Federal Credit, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's a big honor. So, my wife and son, thank y'all for all you've done, for supporting me all this time. After you tell your wife, you got to call your parents, right? So I called my parents, who aren't really from this part of the state, and I was trying to explain to them what I did, what I won, and so I told my mom what it was and everything, and she said, "Oh, I'll tell your dad, he'll be excited." So I got the phone with mom. 2 minutes later, my dad called and said, "Hey, I heard you got a big raise." So we went through the whole process again. We tried to explain it to him. And then I heard my dad say, "Alma, he didn't get a big raise. He won a Nobel Prize." So we're going to keep it at that. All right? But seriously, thank you guys so much. It's been a dream come true to be at Waller, and I appreciate all you guys have done for us. And all our staff is just amazing there. If you ever want to come see a great school and a great family, just come visit us anytime. Thank y'all so much.
Mr. Maxwell, we're working on that raise on Bossier schools. I don't know what we can do about the Nobel Peace Prize. That concludes my report.
That concludes our recognition part, and I know the weather is getting raining more outside, and I know some of you have to take a trip, so if y'all would like to exit, you're more than willing. If you'd like to stay in the business section, you're A 3.01, request for approval of renewal of workers' compensation insurance presented by Doug Rogers, Risk Pros Incorporated.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Well, this part is good news. And first, I want to really thank the board, the administration, and our schools, our departmental directors, because through their hard work, we have made some really important strides in workplace safety. And, loss trends go up and loss trends go down, but they have been doing very well. And when I do have the occasion to stand up and deliver good news on things like work comp, I just first want to point out it's obviously a team sport. So thank you all for buying into it, and that goes from everyone involved, we don't have a bottom to a top, but everybody has got buy-in, and that's important. So on the first proposal, which is marked workers' compensation, on the page 2, you'll just notice that the premium did come down $53,490, and that's in spite of a 1% payroll increase.
increase, and a big part of that is because our experience modifier went down. And just to remind the board, right now our experience modifier is 0.70, average in peers across the United States is 1.00. So we are outperforming our peers by a large margin, and that does go to the bottom line. The other good news is as we continue to improve, which we always try to do, there's more room to be rewarded for that. So we have not bottomed out. The following page just shows the payrolls that we're estimating. And again, with Ms. Bamberg's help, we have projected a modest increase of 1%. And then I just have some more supporting data in here to show you how we're outperforming the national peers. And it would be my recommendation that the board accept LUPA's offer for workers' compensation for a 1-year policy term. Be glad to answer any questions.
Madam President, I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Bullard. Second by Mr. Dean. Please vote. Approved. Mr. Rogers, 3.02, request for approval of renewal of excess property insurance.
Thank you, Madam President. And Board, I'm not sure I thank you for the opportunity to be before you tonight, so if I skip that portion, I apologize. As I had pretty much prepared before, with our large hail claim that we still have ongoing, it was a challenging renewal, but not just because of our losses, because of losses in Louisiana in general. And large property schedules like we have in a fairly concentrated area, such as one parish, has been a real challenge. The insurer that we're with did offer renewal, but there were provisions in the policy that allowed them to change the terms and the structure of the program. And they did that, and part of the reason why is because one of their 20% reinsurance partners pulled out after they got hammered throughout the Southeast this year. So Louisiana is not the only state that's had some weather challenges this year. To keep from making this presentation complicated, I'll just state that in the past we had one insurance company that we knew about. Any spread of risk with other insurers we really didn't see because it was handled among different agreements with different insurers. This year we have 3 different distinctive policy layers of coverage, and we are going to be able to fully insure the school board's property portfolio. And you'll see I've broken it out on page 2 of the excess property proposal to show that we have a $25 million layer that will still be underwritten by our RSUI indemnity partner. It's gone up quite a bit as we expected it to. We have a second property layer that's going to include 4 different insurers that have various shared percentages of that limit. That will take us from 25 million up to 100 million. And then in that third layer, we have a different group of 4 insurers, and RSUI is keeping half of that 317 million that's in that layer, and the remainder of that is spread among 3 other insurers. And so you can see that we have a big difference in the structure of our program. And you'll see where we have some optional coverages, but before we get there, I would like to advance to page 4, where it's at the title, at the top of the page, Major Changes. And so, necessarily every building at every campus, if it's different construction, suffers the same degree of loss. The other change is there is a cosmetic damage exclusion, which is pretty common now. And what that means is pretty much what you would think. If the roof system or the building, if it's a panel, is not damaged, but you see a little divot on the roof, but it doesn't otherwise compromise it. Or in some cases, some of these older metal roofs oxidize, and what we really found after this last storm was it actually knocked some of the oxidation off, almost like a waxing process. Some of that happened to our buses as well, where you can see the hood was oxidized and where the hail hit, it actually shined it up, which was unusual. But here, you actually have to have some sort of failure in the roof system for it to be called damage. It can't be, we can't make a claim for something just because it looks different, okay? The last big part of it is for the roof valuation. What we have been able to enjoy for a number of years is just replacement cost value regardless of the age of the roof. What we have now is for our typical construction for schools, which is masonry non-combustible, for 20 plus years it would be on a depreciated basis. For less than 20 years it would be on a replacement cost. For lighter construction, such as frame, or it could be metal non-combustible, that period is 15 years or more, would be on a depreciated basis. Now, that's not unusual. We've had a very sweet, broad deal that's lasted for a very long time, but we have a pretty significant claim, and of course, we've got the properties listed here. But these were the best possible negotiating points after. I mean, you can imagine we've got 9 insurers involved in this, and we went to a large number of insurers just to fill the bill. So I've got some different descriptions in here, some different forms so that you can see what we have, but the bottom line is those are the major changes from before. I wanted to mention that first because before we go to the optional coverages, for the claim that we have right now that's ongoing, we have approximately $200 million of total valuation of the schools that are on there. So approximately 50% of our schedule potentially has damage at the schools, and that's still being determined. So in that case, with a 1% deductible, you would have a $2 million deductible in dollars. For most claims that we've had, of course, it would be less than that. We've enjoyed a very long run of not having any claims. But I want you to be aware of that because I think preparing for that type of claim might be reasonable, thinking that every single roof at every school could be damaged at the same time would be pretty rare. So we look for what's called a deductible buyback policy. And what that does is basically buy down your deductible from 1%, regardless of how many buildings are involved or how many of those storms that you have in 1 year, down to $500,000, which was the lowest anyone was willing to talk about, okay? So on the same kind of claim that we had, which I would estimate our 1% deductible would be $2 million, they were going to charge us $443,000 for what would amount to about $1.5 million in coverage. And that's not called a bargain in our business, typically. We look for, at a minimum, typically 7 or 8 year paybacks, and we calculated on what is reasonable, what you could reasonably expect. We would be guaranteeing ourselves a full loss every 4.5 years by paying that premium. So we visited about that, and I visited with Mr. Downey, Ms. Vanberg, Mr. Rowland. I visited with your officers. I have visited with our insurance committee chair, and we have the opportunity to buy that. But I want to just be upfront with you in that a lot of times I have made recommendations to you in the past that it made good financial sense for us to buy something new. And this isn't one of those from my viewpoint. Now, having said that, might you tar and feather me next year if we have 3 severe claims? Yes, it would be expensive. But if you look at what our performance has been, and even if you want to discount that and say we can't use past performance to look forward, I still would not expect to have multiple claims in 1 year that are the size of the one that we have going. The other thing is we're going to have eventually some new roofs on those that were marginally hurt, repaired roofs. We're going to have HVAC units. And so when we talk about the 15 or 20 year depreciation valuation on the new policy, yes, we do have some roofs that are going to be older than 20 years old. And on lesser construction, we are going to have some roofs that are going to be over 15 years old. But we're also going to have a lot that are going to be pretty new. So I wanted to make you aware of that. You can see what the numbers are at the cost for the layer 1, 2, or 3. I don't want to speak for Ms. Bamberg, but we have talked about the budget. And can it sustain that? Yes. Is that fair, Ms. Bamberg? As we continue to add things to it, such as this deductible buyback, does it become more of a challenge? Well, it does, because I would expect this weather pattern to be with us for 3 to 4 years based on my prior experience with the La Nina weather pattern. And if we were to pay this over the next 4 years, we're talking about spending $1.2 million, and our exposure for a repeat of the same kind of claim we have is $1.5 million. And so the only way we lose by not buying this extra coverage, the deductible buyback, is if everything that we know about what our weather has been has totally changed and we just get multiple hits this next year. If we were to have 3 storms, would we probably be wanting to look at it the year after? Probably so, if we had 3 big deductibles. But just my best guess, educated guess for you, is that we would better spend that same money accumulating a loss fund for property deductibles that over time could allow us to assume more risk in the future. The last thing I'll mention, you can see that terrorism quote. Each year, for the last several years, I have mentioned in my proposals what terrorism coverage would cost, and that's for damage to our properties, and this is a flat limit of $100 million. You can see that the cost for that option is $21,000. If you wanted to do that going forward, we could. This is for budgeting purposes. If you wanted to put it in next year's budget to buy this, you could. You could buy it this year too, but we kind of have we have to digest a pretty tough premium this year, and so my recommendation, depending on what your risk tolerance is to go with this property layer 1, 2, and 3, and then try to bank what we would spend on the deductible buyback insurance premium. And then if we want to buy terrorism in next year's budget, Ms. Bamberg can have a really good idea of what that number would be. So I apologize for that cumbersome description of what this particular renewal is, and I hate delivering tough renewals. This is one of them, but we knew it was coming. So I'll be glad to entertain any questions.
I make a motion to approve our professional's recommendation in purchasing layers 1, 2, and 3 of coverage.
We have a motion by Mr. Bass. Second. Second by Ms. Brodington. Please vote.
Thank you very much.
I have one comment.
Yes, sir.
That is a tremendous amount of work. I applaud you and your team for doing it. Each one of those layers is a different negotiation, a different insurance company, and I know that you and your team put a lot of time and effort in that, and I just want to thank you for it.
Thank you, sir. It's a privilege to serve, and we look forward to better years and try to get back to a closer to normal that we've enjoyed for a long time.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Any other comment? 3.03, request approval of solicitation award purchase of band uniforms presented by Terry Douglas, Chief Procurement Officer.
Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent Allen, members of the board. We only received one proposal for this solicitation, It's from the vendor that we've worked with over the last 8 or 9 years for band uniforms. We evaluated it. We think it's a good contract, so we're recommending that we award RFP 2143 to Fruithoff.
Motion? I'll make a motion. Ms. Robinson made a motion. Second by Mr. Dean. Please vote. Motion passes. 3.04 request approval to set maximum district cost of band uniform. Okay, at $485, and request permission to order band uniforms for Halton High School to be paid from 21-22 general fund presented by Ms. Douglas.
So when I came before you in November regarding band uniforms, we talked a lot about cost, but we didn't have a defined per uniform cost. So Ms. Bainberg and I decided to consider setting that and presenting you with a figure. So we went through all of the historical data we had on band uniforms, and we came up with this amount. We feel that it will provide schools with a generous uniform, but will also be friendly to the annual general fund budget.
Mr. Ford?
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with what is being proposed, but I would request that we think about one minor change, and that is we are approving a cost factor not just for this year, but for 10 years.
Yeah, probably for the duration of the next round of band uniforms.
For 10 years. And I would wonder if it wouldn't be prudent to include some type of cost of living index or some factor that would enhance that amount to match inflation. Otherwise, the schools that receive their band uniforms this year, next year, will get full value, but 6 or 8 years out, they may have to scrimp and cut corners. Does it make sense, what I'm saying? That's the only concern I would have. We want the schools depend on us for help on these uniforms, and just like to be fair and equitable across the board.
Okay.
What is about the average price of a uniform? I know we went over this in November, but I can't remember what we came up with.
Over 10 years, our average price was $464 and some odd change.
For per uniform?
Yes. So we looked at the breakdown of each school and how much they spent, and then we looked at like the PPI index, the producer price index, and saw the growth of this particular commodity. It's been about just over 5% over the last 5 years. So we took that 464 and just kind of added about a 5% figure to it to get to the 485.
And this is for every band uniform at that school. Because like some bands have 150 and some bands have 30.
Yeah, we didn't really want to set a dollar figure because each school has such different enrollment in band. So that's why we kind of stayed with the per uniform cost. So no matter how many is enrolled, you're going to be covered.
We can kind of save some money on those years, but
yes.
Only have a few. Okay, I was just wondering. Thank you.
If we approve this, wouldn't we be able to come back and amend it according to whatever inflation went from year to year, instead of trying to put the increase in it now?
Mr. Fox, if I may, Ms. Bamberg, would you say average inflation is approximately 3% per annum, and we average that over time? Would that be a fair number to use for inflation adjustment?
It's honestly something we probably have to look at each year.
and to just consider that year to year. Like Karen said, the last 4 years we looked at, because when we looked at the last 4 years, we've got some schools that their uniforms are a little more expensive, some that are a little less, which is why we did look at the averages. And just the last 4 years, the average was $480, which did include a few more of the more expensive uniforms. And so we felt the $485 was fair. If the uniform they build out comes in at $490, they're welcome to order the $490. We'll pay $485 per uniform, and then they can pay the $5 per uniform is what we were looking at. So that's why we didn't really put in an inflation factor at this point. We felt the $485, based on history of the last 10 years of purchases, we felt it would cover it. If that's how y'all would like to include it, we're definitely willing to amend that.
My question is, we're being asked to basically make this standard. We're basically reading this in as that. Can we take Mr. Buller's recommendation and add that into that, saying, as Mr. Bachow said, we'll revisit it on a yearly basis to determine inflation?
Absolutely. We can say that we're setting this $485 for this year, and then next year we can bring, another threshold to you. We can consider inflation and then whatever the current bids are. So absolutely, we can make it a year to year instead of a 10-year set.
Mr. Buller, did you want to make that?
I'll be happy to amend it as Ms. Benberg thinks appropriate. In my mind, it's just, it's the 485 and with consideration of an annual inflation index modifier.
Second. By Mr. Bachow. Any clarification about that?
Yes.
Mr. Self?
Just to make it clear for the record, are we making the motion to add in the cost index or just allow for checking yearly?
Allow for inflation.
Allow for inflation.
Allow for changes.
Okay. Isn't that what you said, Mr. Buller?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, but that would be factored in. All right.
My concern is we wouldn't have to address this every year. They would already, our staff would have direction on how to proceed, as opposed to having to come back to the board every year for approval.
Okay, so that's to allow for the inflation. I assume that y'all base that on a specific type of average uniform, so that if you see if those costs go up with the inflation, that you can adjust it with this motion. Okay. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Please vote. Passes. Thank you. 3.05, permission to order a transportation mechanic vehicle and 1077 passenger international school buses to be paid from 21-22 general fund, presented by Carrie Douglas.
This motion is just a request permission to go ahead and order out of next year's funds 10 buses at about $94,000 apiece, plus a transportation mechanic vehicle about $25,000.
Any questions? Mr. Dean?
Madam President, is this coming from some grant money that we still?
This is general funds.
Okay. What was that? I didn't hear.
This is general funds.
We have a motion? Have a motion by Ms. Darby.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Buller. Please vote.
Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent. We wanted to come today and give an update of the implementation of the AWIP program for the retirees with Medicare A and B. We are talking about just the retirees with A and B, or the ones that qualify for the AWIP. We started the process back in September of last year. It's essentially a Medicare Part B program for those that qualify. Upon approval by the board, we started in the direction of getting it implemented. Underneath this program, we get funding from outside sources as opposed to it all coming from the board. So we're able to get money from the government, both on direct subsidies from the government, low income premium subsidies, so those with lower income, the federal government actually gives us money to help cover their cost of Medicare Part D. Reinsurance, so the federal government pays 80 cents on every dollar once it gets past $63.50 of drug claims in a year for any individual participant. And we'll go over some of that cost so far this year. And low income cost share, so those that qualify for the LIPS or low income subsidy also qualify for reduced copays. The federal government covers the cost of their copays. So that's all the money that's coming from the government. In addition to that, we get additional discounts from the drug manufacturers when it's in the coverage gap or donut hole. So that's between $43.50 and $63.50. The drug manufacturers reduce the cost of a brand name drug to 25%. So the plan pays that 25% instead of paying 100%. We established the program. We mirrored the benefits that are currently in the active plan, so that deductibles and copays and everything remain the same as far as what it was on the drug plan. And we've gone through the implementation process. Like I said, beginning of September. At that point, we had conference calls, virtual meetings multiple times a week from September 1st through January 31st. We're doing more follow-up meetings now. We're having a weekly meeting on Monday to go over where we are in the process and make sure we're not losing anybody or losing track of it. Started the process and went through all the implementation as far as setting up the contract, negotiating contracts, sent out an initial notice a pre-note to the members on 11/10 to tell them about something was changing. From there, then they got a notice that started an opt-out period where under Medicare law we were required to notify them that they can choose not to be in this Medicare Part D program. But again, it's the Medicare Part D program that's available through the school board at no cost to the members. Okay? So if they participate in this, they don't pay anything for the program. And it's got a richer benefit that's available on the market. We did a board update in November 19th to tell you where we were in the implementation of the process, and then a town hall meeting on December 14th. And we had a good crowd at each one with some hesitancy and concerns about the implementation of the process. We've worked through most of that. I mean, and y'all have to understand the staff that Nisha has, as far as Courtney and Angela. They work through this with compassion and empathy for these people, and they help them get through this process and understand what we were doing. And that's not something they signed up for. And at times it was hectic and took a lot of effort. And my hat's off to them for getting through the process. Initially, we mailed out cards on December 18th. Unfortunately, due to some problems with the U.S. Post Office, some of those cards did not get there by January 1st. Through the school, through our consultant and working with Nisha, we were able to establish and set up paper cards for these people. Anybody that called, we immediately emailed them or faxed them or got them a card so that they could go to their pharmacy and get it. We had pharmacists contacting the pharmacy they dealt with directly to give them the information to help them work through the process. All of this was almost immediate. I don't know that anybody went a day without a return phone call. So again, my hat's off to those people that were involved in getting this all taken care of. Back to January 1st, there were 1,514 members that went to the AWIP program. In January, we paid over 4,500 prescription drug claims. And February 1st through the 17th, we paid 2,600. So people are using the program. We only had 1,500 people on there, so that's basically 3 prescriptions per person per month. Is what the plan has been able to process and get in place. Today, effective for March 1st next week, we've got 1,566. We were able to identify some people that weren't on the rolls as having Medicare A and B, and and transition them over to the AWIP program for 3-1, which will lead us some additional savings. Issues that we had issues with the distribution of the ID cards. No fault of anybody who met the timelines to get them to the people on time. Unfortunately, with COVID and the fact that, the majority of Christmas now was bought online and shipped, it slowed down the mail for everything. And so my e-cards didn't get there, but again, we accommodated the people as best we could. Under Medicare Part D, a person can only have one Medicare Part D program. So in some instances, somebody may have been retired from the city or the sheriff's department and weren't an Advantage plan. And they had Medicare Part D through the city or through the sheriff's department, through the Advantage plan they have. Well, when we implement a Medicare Part D program here, they can't have two. So in some instances, people will need to select a plan, either stay with the school board's plan or just go to the other. Because you can't have the two Medicare Part D programs. One of the other major issues or concerns for some members were income-related adjustments, just like on Medicare Part B that they currently pay. And there's an adjustment based on the income, and I have the information in the back of this on how it tiers. It also is for Part B, there's a surcharge based on the income that you have. Somebody that makes less than $87,500 in a calendar year, there is no adjustment. It's the same price as everybody else. Unfortunately, as you get over $87,500 per individual, it goes up. A husband and wife, if it's two people, it's $175,000. We'll go through how that impacts individual people on the next page. The other issue, manufacturer rebates, or copay assistance. Under the active population, a person could go to the drug manufacturer and get a big copay assistance. So somebody that might have had an upper tier copay of $100 or $70, the drug manufacturer actually came in and paid a portion of that copay for them. Well, underneath the Medicare Part D program, the federal government says under the anti-kickback law that somebody cannot go out and incentivize somebody or encourage somebody to take a drug that they provide or receive a service that they provide, because they feel like it negates the ability of the person to look at less costly avenues to have care. And I've got a sample of what the law states in here. On the next page, you can look at, this is the income related adjustment. Again, those people that this affected were already paying inflated Medicare Part B premium based on their income that they earn. It's an individual making $88,000 or less. There was no adjustment. Somebody between $88,000 and $111,000, their surcharge is $12.30. 111 to 138 is $31.80, and then 138 to 165 is $50.20. Had some people that got in the upper category, 165,000 to 500,000, 70.7, and $500,000 greater, 77.1. That's a surcharge in addition to anything else they pay for B. Since we're not charging them a fee, when we go through it and explain to them, they say, well, if I'd have known this, I'd have done another Medicare Part D program or looked at other options. Any other Medicare Part D program, they would pay this subsidy. This is not a subsidy implemented by the Bossier Parish School Board. This is a federal government based on equity, based on income. It is how it's spread out. We didn't have many calls on it. We had some. Everybody that we were able to talk to and explain it to, by and large, accepted it and understood the reasoning behind it, and that it was not a fee charged by the board. I'm sure some of y'all might have gotten some questions on that. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Mr. Arnold?
Yeah.
Going back a few slides, the lower income, so less than 88,000 to needed assistance. Some of them through this program have seen copays that were $20 under the old plan go to zero based on income.
Under LIPS, if somebody's below Medicaid, they get dual coverage of Medicare and Medicaid, and that's where LIPS comes in, and LIPS would get it to where it would be a zero copay.
But that was not provided on the previous plan, so they're actually getting.
It's an enhancement for
those that aren't making money actually maybe not spending a dime on this.
Correct.
Well, I was gonna say, I know that it's taken a lot of extra time to implement this program in a short period of time, that we went through that for you and also for Ms. Bamberg. And I know that I haven't received one phone call or an email since we implemented. I know it was before when we were trying to make the decision, but after implementation, I haven't received, which tells me that y'all are fueling those phone calls and taking care of that. And I appreciate that, and I know that they're probably getting positive results for most of the 1,500 plus enrollees, or they would be calling or emailing us. So thank you for your hard work and perseverance to implement the program. Yeah.
I just like to echo that. I know Ms. Bamberg and her staff have been working around the clock, essentially, to try to address all of this, make sure everybody had the correct information. I know Mr. Allman has been in there as well, trying to get the insurance companies to respond appropriately and make sure that we don't impact anybody in a negative way. And she does have a small staff. They have taken this on, and I just appreciate Mr. Allman for the work he's done, and also the fact that he recognized the effort that Ms. Bamberg and her staff have made to make sure this is as seamless as possible. Anytime you make this kind of change, 1,500 people, there's going to be hiccups, but they have worked tremendously hard to make sure that if there was any kind of lag, it was minor and it was addressed. So thank you, Mr. Allman and Ms. Bamberg.
And we had the consultants here for an entire week, and them both being educated pharmacists. They were able to get on the phone with the pharmacies and put a Band-Aid on it, fix it up, get the people going down the street, and get their prescription drugs. It really, it worked out very well. I mean, I know for the most part, when we got to January 2nd, there were calls left and right with people without ID cards, what we were going to do. We figured out how to get the paper ID cards, and we figured out we could call the pharmacy directly, and then if the pharmacist called Express Scripts, they gave them the new card information. So we kind of patched it up together, and we got it rolling as quickly as we can. The income-related adjustment, it affects a few people, but it is a charge. They're going to have to pay. It does come out of their Social Security check. While the majority of these people that retired from the school board and had a benefit, they may have got worked outside and got a Social Security benefit, or their spouse may have a Social Security benefit that comes out. The last part is this anti-kickback law, and it's unfortunate that it comes about this way, as it seems like we're taking something away from it. It's not. The school board has addressed the plan, designed a plan with steerage, with reasonable steerage. $10 copayment on generic, $40 copayment on preferred brand, $35 on preferred brand, $70 on non-preferred brand, and $100 on a specialty drug, 10% to $100. Well, these drug manufacturers came in and said, you know what? We can get a bigger population covered if we get them to where it doesn't cost them. If it costs them $5, they won't decide to go try another treatment. So many of these drugs, particularly when you look at such things as Emerald, Humira, these autoimmune deficiency drugs, they're taking somebody down to a $5 copay. That takes all our ability to steer people to try something at a lower cost away from us. There are no generics available to these drugs, but there are other treatments that are available. So that's why the federal government put in this anti-kickback law, to try to keep people from doing such things, to incentivize people to try a treatment. And again, these treatments are not cheap. These are $5,000 to $12,000 a month worth of prescription drugs. And we put 10% up to a maximum of $100, which is not an astronomical fee for the type of drug it is. But unfortunately, the person gets caught in the middle of the place. So we're trying to work with them. There are some financial assistance available to them on the lower income scale, and also some 501c companies that they can get a benefit from, but they've got to call the people. They've got to work through the information. We can't do it for them because of the protected health information. But we kind of give them all the information we can and kind of steer them in the right direction. In the end, there were about 45 people that got copay assistance last year that were moved to the AWIP program. So it's not everybody at 1,500. It's about 45 people. Of those that were at the higher echelon at $100 copay, it's about 35 people. That's the total number of people on a specialty drug. So we're trying to work with them. We're trying to make it as affordable as, but we don't want to take steerage away from the plan. Because again, that's our only avenue to try to get people to try something that might be more beneficial to them and the plan. I pulled some information today. Humira, which is the largest costing drug underneath our plan, last year they paid $556 million for direct-to-consumer advertising. They see your plan as a revenue stream. They're doing everything they can to get as much money out of the plan as they possibly can. The year before, they paid $495 million. So over $1 billion of advertising in 2 years for Humira for rheumatoid arthritis drug. Of the 35 specialty drugs that are people taking specialty drugs on the AWIP program, 20 of them are for autoimmune deficiencies. And all of them are somewhere $5,000 to $12,000 a month. So I don't say that in a negative format. I just say we've got to do some things to protect the plan. Maybe if we get through this and there's significant savings at the end, maybe we can look at it and have one brand name copay for everything. Say that's a benefit of being a part of the AWIP program. When we went through the numbers, we'll get additional money from the LIPS program. We'll get additional money from the form of the reinsurance program. It might be where we start out the program, maybe $1 million to $1.3 million. We may be as much as $2.5 million. We'll see. So as we go through this, we can alter, we can adjust the copays and make it as beneficial and to everybody involved. Anybody got any questions?
Jason, at this point, I know it's probably too early, but can you tell if this is working? I guess is what I'm saying. Can you see the benefits?
Yes. So benefit to the members and benefit to the plan. This week we got back $146,000, $155,000 worth of reinsurance check from the federal government and LIPS payments all combined. So that's for 2 months. And then that will probably double as we get further in because they gave us a check number, a minimum number for the first couple of months until they could prove up whether it's qualified or not. The math I did was basically almost double that. If my math is correct. So it's going to be substantially more than what we're getting today. As far as cost to the members, gosh, we went through a number of different members where their copays went down on a number of things, might have gone up on one, but if they changed the pharmacy and they went to another one, it reduced them all down to nothing. But in the end, the majority of the people that we dealt with, overall, their monthly prescription drug cost is less under this program than what it was under the old program. And the majority of the people are taking generic drugs. And the generic drug cost under this program winds up less than it was underneath the other program. And when we talk about these 35 people on specialty drug, every one of these people will be in the catastrophic phase where the federal government's paying 80 cents on a dollar after February. Because they'll be over $63.50 worth of prescription drugs purchased. So it's really working out. And, again, knock on wood, we undertook this and had really good expectations that everything has seemingly worked well to this point. Again, people have been accommodating, people have been understanding. And so my hat's off to them and also their staff.
So what few phone calls, I haven't gotten many, but just a handful, and they were very, very positive toward all of you. They said y'all were just very, very nice and very compassionate. They were just, it must have got the cards at the beginning, but I've only heard positive things said, so thank you.
Yeah.
What if the treatment doesn't work? Can they go back to the second control?
Ms. Darby, can you speak in your microphone?
not taking the specialty drug away from them. They're just losing their copay assistance. So the copay assistance comes from the drug manufacturer to reduce the out-of-pocket of somebody to incentivize them to take that drug. But if they're qualified to take that drug, they're getting it today.
And so they can't go back to their specialty drug.
They're going to continue to get the specialty drug, Ms. Harvey. We can't get the drug manufacturer's copay assistance unless we go through the process of either through their financials, if they make less than $51,000 as an individual or $68,000 as a husband or wife. The drug manufacturer will actually subsidize the cost of the drug. And then in addition to that, there are other charities and 501Cs that may cover that cost of the drug. And again, when we're looking at this, there's 35 people that are taking a specialty drug that would cost $100, and all of those have filled their prescriptions in January. You're welcome.
I just want to add on to Superintendent Downey and President Smith. Great job. I know you guys have fielded so many calls and done each of them with compassion. And I just want to say thank you again. And it sounds like from a savings standpoint, based on the numbers that you just gave, I think we originally started at 1.2 million. I know we're only a month in, but based on the rough math of what you're projecting, 2 to 2.5 million is in savings for the plan, while the vast majority of the members see a reduction in cost on their side and better benefits. It truly does sound like a win-win. I know that's a big part of what you brought to the table and what Nisha's team's done, so thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
3.07, request, approval of trip request. Superintendent Downey, are these in order?
These are in order, Madam President.
Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Bass.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bullard. Please vote. Motion passes. 4.01, announcements and superintendent's comments.
Thank you. The Louisiana School Board Association Convention will be held March 7th through the 9th at the Hilton in Shreveport. Ms. Carrier has a copy of that agenda if you're interested in looking over it. Building Grounds Planning and Development Committee meeting will be at 5 p.m. March 11th here at the Big. And the next regular session of the board will be held at 6 p.m. on March 11th also here at the Big. That concludes my announcement.
Superintendent Downey, just to reiterate, we have appreciated everything during last week and the staff that worked overtime to assess each one of our facilities and to be sure that everything was taken care of and administration. So thank you to yourself and them. 5.01, adjournment of regular session of the board.
Motion adjourned.
Motion by Mr. Slack, second by Mr. Bullard. Please vote.